Hey, if you're new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me, and honestly, it'd make my day. If you already did, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you like listening to fan fiction, check out my other channel. The link's in the description. Legend of the Strawhats by the White Wolf. John was just an ordinary sailor, inheriting his father's ship in what should have been a day of celebration with his loving family. But in the blink of an eye, everything changed. Tragedy struck, and John was cast into a world completely foreign to him. Lost and grieving, he soon crosses paths with a boy made of rubber, wild dreams, and a grin too big for the seas. Luffy, who's determined to become the king of the pirates, and to John's dismay, Luffy has already made up his mind. John is joining his crew, whether he likes it or not. And before we start, a massive shout out to the warlords of this channel. Case Clark, Lee5_SCXR, Tristan Ward. You three are the backbone of this community. Your support means the world. Seriously, thank you for standing with me. If you want to join the ranks of these legends, hit that join button and become a channel member today. Let's grow this thing together. Much love, and as always, adios.
Legend of the Strawhats Chapter 7, John's POV. There were a great many things I was expecting in this world. Lunacy and all. But this was new. So, what am I supposed to teach you? Teach me your ways. I must have shut down from the absurdity of the request because everyone was eating away at their food and Sanji was gone, hurled into the kitchen by one of the waiting staff. The poor girl growled at me, but then oddly gave me a wink while she was scowling. Talk about mixed signals. Dot did that? Yup. Nami grunted as she chewed away at some kind of fish. It was a beautiful dish, but the smell was unlike anything I've eaten before. My new friend was chatting away with Usopp and Kara. I'm just going to ignore what that lad asked me. Good idea, stated Zoro, never seen a shittier cook in my life. I couldn't help but disagree slightly. The feeling that I got off the man, it was a twisted, dark thing. Self-contained and spiteful. It felt like pain. Something buried deep. There was something more to this Sanji guy. The truth was that I wasn't all that interested in exploring the depths of that man. Wasn't like he was a part of the... Well, I like him. Shit. The remainder of our dinner proved uneventful. Our new friend was quick to find a way home. As it would turn out, she was not as stranded as I first assumed, just violently uncomfortable. Our parting was a quiet affair, though she did smile and thank me for the meal. As I had told her, I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to salvage what turned out to be a horrible date. Though I would admit, she did bring the mood down quite a bit. The moment she left, Luffy was back into his usual exuberant behavior, laughter, and all. As usual, the rubber boy was attached to Nami. I think the lad had a crush if I didn't know any better. But truthfully, I think he was just trying to be there for her, in his own way. The food was excellent. The taste was absolutely mind-melting, and I couldn't help but smile at the sweetness between Usopp and Kaya. It was adorable how the two of them were basically in their own little world, lost in their impromptu date. It was disgustingly sweet, as it should be. Sadly, like all things, it came to an end. As I ate the last bit of my food and watched Luffy devour his fifth plate. Somehow, the doors to the establishment were blown wide open. A man, obviously starving and somewhat delirious, walked straight into the restaurant. You could almost taste his desperation. Please, he begged, food, I need food. The server with the strange arms, Patty, was quick to remind him of exactly where he was. Do you have money? Asked Patty. The man on the floor stuttered, but Patty lifted him off the ground before he could speak. No money, no food. We run a business here, pal, not a charity. Why do you get to have free food and everyone else has to pay? A fair point in any other circumstance. But considering the gaunt nature of the man before us, it was obvious he was beyond starving. This wasn't a joke or a trick for free food. This man was dying, his skin nearly attached to his bones, and had a somewhat yellowish complexation to his skin. This wasn't a simple matter of someone bumming you for food. Now scram. Crack. Patty fell to the floor with a resounding smack, a heavy thud as Sanji's leg thundered into his head. Patty fell, gasping for breath. I blinked, not expecting such strength from a man like Sanji. He seemed so lithe and skinny. My new senses flickered for a moment, showing me that Sanji was ablaze with a resolve that I've only felt from a few people. He placed a bowl of soup down in front of the starving man. I blinked, wondering how the man had flat out destroyed Patty without spilling a single drop of that soup. "What's your name, sir?" The man blinked, hesitantly reaching for the food. Jin." "Well, Jin, eat up." I smiled, watching Sanji feed the man, ignoring the rage of Patty and the other servers. I could tell, Sanji would fight to protect Jin if necessary. "How dare you?" roared Patty. "I ought to shut up." Patty shuddered and I felt a small pressure weigh down on everyone. It wasn't domineering, but rather it felt like someone of great weight had just entered. With his ridiculous hat, the head chef glared at his entire staff. "Do you know what it is to starve?" he asked. "I don't mean being hungry. I mean having not touched food for days. To have your vision swimming, your mind playing tricks on you." He touched his leg, the one with the peg attached to it. To be pushed to the point of doing the unthinkable. He looked around. "No, then shut up. Sanji knows what it means to starve. He has my full blessings to feed this man what he needs and to send him on his way." Then my captain. Everyone turned to Jin, the man rapidly gaining strength as he stood up, the food gone. "My captain needs your help. Please, bring him in." I glared at the doors, wondering what the presence had been this entire time. As it entered, I couldn't help but blink. The man wore a massive set of armor and he stood taller than almost anyone in the restaurant. What was once a serene quiet quickly turned into a terrified hush. I rose an eyebrow at Nami, who was now sweating. "You alright, lass? That's Don Krieg," she whispered. "Who? He's a famous pirate," she growled. "Oh," I smiled. "Why are you smiling? Bounty." My entire crew turned to me at that word. Zoro, however, was grinning just as madly as me. "I mean we do not have bounties of our own, correct?" Luffy pouted. "As such we're technically privateers. We can turn in whatever bounty Don Krieg has." Nami began smiling, her grin growing bigger. The smell of money gave her courage. She turned to me. "You think you can take him?" My newfound senses were sporadic. Not something I would normally depend on, yet as I watched this hulk of a man eat and eat, growing bigger and bigger against any common sense, I felt assured, confident. This man, he was weak, in character and in body. "Permission to engage him in combat outside of the restaurant, Captain?" Luffy pouted even more. "I want a bounty," I sighed. "Luffy, are you seriously going to randomly break laws to get a bounty?" "No," he mumbled. Luffy was a chaotic sort, no doubt. But he also wasn't one to cause trouble and break laws without a reason. Now if those laws infringed on his freedom, well, he would burn and shit on them faster than anyone else I've ever known. But until then, he was a good lad. I understood why he wanted a bounty though. In this world, a bounty was a scale of strength. A way to measure the threat of a person. It was a point of pride for a pirate. The Marines may suck, but the laws weren't too bad. Still though, I'm excited to see what kind of bounty the man has. John. Don Krieg is holding the restaurant hostage. I'm sorry, what? I refocused my attention to Don Krieg and sure enough he was boasting to the entire restaurant, holding it hostage as another addition to his armada. On the ground were the two people that directed us to the restaurant. Those two were still with us? Zoro burst out laughing. Nami just sighed and shook her head. "What?" I asked. "It's not my fault. It is your fault. Their names are Joe." "You there, shut up or I'll take that redhead for a spin." I stared at Don Krieg. He glared at me. I couldn't believe the absurdity of the threat. It was just so basic. "I suggest you stay down, boy. That drew it." I blinked and turned to Nami. "Permission to white knight you?" She gave me a quizzical expression. "Basically, defend your honor. And mine for that matter. I was certainly not a boy, damn it. I was bigger than this chump without the armor." Nami blinked. Sure. Perfect. Oi, what's your bounty?" I stood up, making Don Krieg point his entire gun ensemble at me. The man smirked. 17 million. I whistled. That was like 130,000 back home. I turned to Zeph, the head chef. "Excuse me, sir, would it be alright if I apprehended this man? The damage as best I can." Zeph rose an eyebrow. "Sure. Excellent. Don Krieg's rage began to climb. How dare you? I'll kill everyone in this ship. You want to be responsible for these people having holes for heads. He cocked the guns. I rose an eyebrow. First of all, how can you have a hole for a head? Would that not imply they are without a head, therefore having no head to compare? The idiot blinked at me. Secondly, how can you state such with no bullets? He stilled. A frosty breath escaped my mouth as I stared at him. It was obvious to anyone that the man lacked bullets. After all, why take the place hostage if you wanted the ship overall? It would be easier and faster to simply kill everyone and take the ship and food. Now, stand still. I want to make sure you're in perfect condition when I bring you in. Jin got in front of his captain. His eyes were sharp and ready. Are you sure about this, lad? Jin ignored me. Instead, he turned to his captain, spinning a pair of tonfas. Where he even got those I had no idea. Captain, don't worry about him. I'll handle this. I couldn't understand it. Honestly, I had to know. I don't understand. You clearly don't agree with what your captain is doing, yet you'll stand by him. Jin tightened his grip on his tonfas. He is my captain. The man said it as if it explained everything. Honestly, it was pathetic. I'm not entirely certain what was going on here, but it was obvious to me that Jin felt less responsibility because it was his captain, ordering him to act like this. Maybe I was way off base, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. If you're certain, but for my own sake, please step aside, young man. Don Krieg laughed while Don stared at me. I guess I was technically younger than him right now. Still though, after a few moments I didn't hesitate. Not anymore. Perhaps he was going to monologue. Perhaps he had a plan of some sort. I truly didn't care. I felt the tremor within me, a name sundering forth. I imagined a deluge of ice springing forth, like a tiny avalanche surging to encompass them. Scatty's Grace. The story of the huntress, one who allowed herself to be buried under the ice for the accidental murder of her father. A fitting name for what came. It flowed so easily, so freely. My ice encased them, snowing forth in a frosty thick mist. It was like liquid nitrogen, freezing the two of them on contact. Don Krieg and Jin were frozen solid, their faces stuck in their permanent horror. A white frost escaped my mouth as I felt the tremor inside me settle down. I didn't know if they were alive or not. Quite frankly, I felt little sympathy or regret. The man was threatening to kill everyone, even the children that were there. He didn't deserve my restraint. You're a logia, grunted Zeph. That I am, sir. Now, do you happen to know the closest bounty location for these men? I'll do you one better, grinned Zeph. I'll take both off your hands for 10 million berries. An interesting proposal. One I found myself becoming interested in. After all, this way I didn't have to somehow travel to a random island to cash them in. That, and I'm pretty sure I'd owe this man money anyways. I did damage his floor, the frost having upended a few planks. But at the end of the day, lugging around corpses around for days was not on my to-do list. Especially not on our new ship, damn it. Make it 15 and we have a deal. Zeph grumbled but seemed to consider it. I turned to Luffy but grinned at him talking to Sanji, the man yelling at him for something or another. They seem to get along pretty well, I muttered. Seems like they do. I turned to the head chef. I think we have time to hash out the specifics. I had to ignore the shocked patrons as I walked behind Zeph, though there was one little boy who stared at me. I smiled back. As it would turn out, that was a mistake. Within a blink the child rushed out of his seat. His poor mother tried to stop him, but he latched onto me with no sense of danger. You're an Iceman, that I am, lad. Is that significant? You ate a devil fruit. The child was lifted off the floor by his poor mother. The woman was blushing madly at the embarrassment. I am so sorry, Tonic. What did we tell you about running up to strangers? Your father will hear about this. But devil fruits are real, Mom. Look, she blushed harder, giving me an awkward smile. We, thought they were stories. Sea myths. I understand completely. Wasn't even aware they existed myself till I ate one by accident. Really, is it true what they say, that they taste horrible? Worse than you can possibly imagine. Can't even spit them out. They just crawl down your throat the second you take a bite. The mother and son cringed at my telling, but it was true. Again, I am so sorry about Tonic. Do it again. The mother looked at her screaming child with what had to be the most shocked expression I'd ever seen. I laughed, enjoying the sight of a child and his mother. "Don't worry, miss. It's not cold," I assured. "He cannot hurt himself." She was confused for a second before watching my arm turn into ice. She hesitantly touched my gauntlet-clad arm and smiled. "It's not cold at all." Without further ado, the sun went wild. However, I was distracted by the sight of my arm. To be fair, I never really paid attention to my form. Yes, it looked like a medieval knight, but the specifics of it were never something I paid attention to. My hands were clawed for starters, and the armor seemed to be scale-like in design. I chuckled as the child managed to pry one of the so-called scales off my arm. His poor mother staring at me, distraught. "Don't worry, it didn't hurt. Can't say how long that scale will last though. Please, enjoy the rest of your day." I drew my attention away from the kid, moving to follow Zeph. My thoughts were all focused on one thing. What happened to me earlier? My head had exploded and now I could use my devil fruit with ease. My other form was constantly shifting in appearance in small, subtle ways. Something wasn't adding up. To be fair, this entire existence is absurd, I thought. Is there any reason to really overthink something like this? The world was obviously cracked. I shrugged mentally and took the sack of berries from Zeph. Couldn't help but be a little concerned about how much wealth this man was carrying, but hey, worked out for me. That, and I'm pretty sure Zeph would obliterate any normal pirate that tried to get into this place. Why he didn't immediately destroy Don Krieg was beyond me. We must have been at it for almost an hour, but we finally agreed on 13 million berries. As we shook hands, Sanji's voice echoed through the restaurant, louder than I've ever heard it. "The all blue." I jumped at the sound, turning to the noise. "The fucking what?" Zeph chuckled as he shook his head, disappearing into what I assumed was the restaurant's vault. "That kid. The all blue is a place where the currents of every sea meet in one location. The rumor is that there you can find all the delicacies of the world." "All of them?" Zeph returned, a sack in hand. He handed it to me. It was nice and heavy, and decided to trust the man at his word. This was the proper amount. "All of them. Must be a chef's paradise, this all blue." Zeph smirked. "You'd better believe it, but no one has found this place?" "Not a soul, which is why Sanji will be the first. If the fool ever gets his head out of his ass. Hopefully your captain will be the inspiration he needs. Strange boy, that one, but he's got the charisma a captain needs to be successful. As odd as he is, you must be proud of your son." The poor man nearly choked and began to have a heaving cough. I tried rubbing his back, only for a strange force to exert itself and blast me away. I stared at him. Was that a flickering black? No, must have been a trick of the eyes. He's not my son," grumbled Zeph. Before I knew, a foot had launched itself into my head, destroying it into multiple ice shards. I'm still not used to that. "What are you doing to head Chef Zeph?" Sanji landed and I gave Zeph a victorious smirk. "Shut it," he grumbled, a small blush on his cheeks. "I'm fine, you nitwit." A loud gong-like sound echoed as Zeph bonked his not son on the head. "What's with all the yelling? We run a restaurant, damn it." "Just something dumb is all," stated Sanji, lighting his cigarette. "Dumb, is it? Let me guess, you got invited to join a crew?" Sanji took a breath. With his exhale, the cloud of smoke filtered through the kitchen, sucking away into some vent system I couldn't see. "Like I said, stupid." "What's stupid is you? What's that?" "You heard me, shrimp. How the hell are you going to find the all blue standing around here?" I felt that it wasn't my place to be a part of this, so I left. The sack of money made Nami rush to me. I of course froze the bag in my hand. She pouted at me, pushing her chest into me. I was not impressed. "That won't work on me, lass. You're like a kid sister. Besides, I like older women." Nami gave me the stink eye. "Pervert," says the brat, trying to seduce me for money. I unfroze the bag, tossing her the money. She blinked up at me. I couldn't help but smile. "I trust you, lass." She blushed a bit and turned away from me. "I'll drop it off at the ship for you." "Got it, lass, we should be with you in a bit." It had been bugging me since it happened. They needed to go. I turned to the statues and began to lift them out of the restaurant. No one needed a frosted corpse standing around their dinner. Zoro was quick to help, heaving Jin over his shoulder. Usopp and Kaya were still in their little world, completely ignorant of the fact that everyone but Luffy had left the table. The two of them laughing, Kaya's expression lost in the brilliance of her freedom. Me and Zoro dropped the 2 bounties near the door. So how much did you get for these guys? About 13 million. Which is fair all things considered. At least this way we don't have to worry about finding a place to turn them in. Zoro nodded, but his expression grew solemn. Look. I turned and noticed what Zoro meant. There was a ship, a massive one. How much you want to bet there's an entire crew there? He smirked. A fool's bet. We should warn the OT, is that a man? It took him a minute to see what I meant, but soon the two of us stared into the open sea as a coffin floated towards us. On a raft, at sea? Dear God, there was more than one Luffy, though this one was better dressed. Mihawk. Who? Zoro grinned, his arms shaking in excitement. Dracul Mihawk, the strongest swordsman in the world. And he's here. Why? Don't care, growled Zoro. I focused on the man. My newfound senses no longer gave me a headache, but they were just as sporadic. It felt like I was threading a needle through my consciousness. For a moment I felt it, that my new senses flickered. For the moment I held it, I saw the truth. This man was an absolute monster. Then his golden eyes locked onto mine. I didn't know how I knew that, but I did. I was rooted to the spot. His presence was overwhelming, a complete and utter eclipse of my own. I could see his head tilting as he stared at me. I was an ant, no, a drop in comparison to this behemoth. It wasn't even a joke. Calling him a monster was an insult. He was beyond such comparisons. Then I watched him cut a fucking ship apart. What the actual hell? Zoro wanted to fight that thing. I grabbed his arm. Zoro, don't you dare stop me. I retracted my hands. I stared at Zoro's back. This is my goal, my life. I will face Mihawk and either be victorious, or die a swordsman. I will become the greatest. He turned to me, a manic light in his eyes. Don't get in my way. I was stunned. He meant it. He meant every word, which is precisely why it was so fucking stupid. Could he not feel the difference between them? What was the point of rushing out? The difference in their skills was obvious. Fight the strongest when you know you could compete, not throw your life away when you're but an ant to the sun. But even with these thoughts churning within, I stayed silent. After all, Zoro was right. This was his life, and I'm pretty sure he'd be right pissed if anyone interfered. We must have been louder than I thought because this was the time that the others decided to show up. Sanji was with us, his face troubled. What's going on? Asked Luffy. Zoro's fighting Mihawk. Said man jumped down, rushing towards Mihawk, jumping on the broken ship fragments. Who? That's what I said. Supposedly, he's the strongest swordsman in the world. I see, said Luffy, then we wait. God damn it, they were all the same. But held my tongue. Zoro showed me just how little I knew back on Usopp's island. A bit of culture shock, if you would. I felt at this moment it was best to be quiet. Still, this wasn't a TV show, because whatever they were saying to each other, I couldn't hear shit. Oh, I got a word here or there. But the position we ended up being in for this duel was further away than I would like. Zoro and Mihawk were fighting on pieces of the boat that Mihawk had destroyed. Mihawk dodged a few blows before Zoro started yelling something. My senses heightened at that moment, and I got Mihawk's rebuttal, even so far away. Would I bring a rifle to hunt a bug? Okay, ow. Not sure what the context was, but that had to hurt. To make the burn even worse, Mihawk drew a goddamn steak knife. He parried a few blows with it, and I could have sworn the blade turned black for a moment. Obviously, a trick of the light and sparks flying around. Because the next thing I knew he proceeded to stab Zoro right in the chest. The man seemed surprised that Zoro didn't move. I was already running, ignoring Luffy's shouting. Zoro's fight was over, but I could possibly save him if I was quick enough. Thankfully Mihawk didn't drive his knife further in Zoro's chest, but I wasn't taking any chances. I ran along the water-turned ice, almost halfway there. Zoro stood strong, glaring at Mihawk defiantly. Scars on the back is a swordman's greatest shame. Mihawk began laughing, withdrawing his knife. I see, excellent, to think a swordsman of your caliber was here in this sea. Live Roronoa Zoro. Your time is not yet over. Live, grow strong, and surpass me if you can. I shoved past Mihawk as Zoro fell, though shoving implied I even touched the man, as he swerved out of the way. Without wasting a second, I put Zoro on his back, covering his puncture wound with ice. Zoro shivered a bit at the cold, but the wound was sealed, for now, the ice turning red. It was a short-term fix. "You're an utter dumbass, you know that, lad? Shut up," yelled Zoro, as he coughed up blood. I felt the overwhelming presence of Mihawk tower over me. "Ah, the one with observation haki. Tell me, young man, how did you come to awaken? It's unstable but still, for this sea, it's quite the accomplishment." I stilled. "That term. Haki? Oh, you were unaware. Even more impressive than." I stared at Zoro, the man glaring up at me. "I'm fine," he grunted. I shook my head. I turned to Mihawk. His gaze tore through me. It made me shudder and feel small, weak. Compared to him, I was. But even so, I needed to know. "You called it haki. What is it?" Suddenly an overwhelming pressure hit me. It was suffocating, all-consuming, like a king had come down from on high just to crush me underfoot. I should have blacked out, but the feeling it wrought inside me reminded me of what happened before. When did that fucking creature murr? Whatever I was thinking ceased and I stood defiant and tall against Mihawk. The man smiled. "Quite the captain you have, Zoro." "Hey," yelled Luffy, "I'm the captain." Mihawk turned to Luffy. He studied him for a moment and his grin grew even wider. "Ha, as it should be for the newer generation. A strong crew for a strong swordsman. You've done well, Zoro." The man's grin disappeared, his expression serious. "You asked me a questio considering your ability to withstand my haki." And just like that, the overwhelming presence was gone. It felt like I could breathe again. That insanity was haki. What the actual fuck? Bullshit, that was your full whatever haki you used. That just seemed to make Mihawk even happier, whatever was happening. Haki is the manifestation of your very will. With it, it is possible to see and act beyond the realm of man. You have unlocked observation haki, the sight beyond sight. When mastered, it becomes possible to know the core of others and hear their movements. There's more to it obviously, but that will be for you to discover. Mihawk turned to walk away, but then he stilled, turning back to me. "There are two other forms of haki. Consider this a gift. Look closely. I wouldn't bother showing this to Zoro as he cannot see it, but you can." Mihawk drew his impossibly large sword and I could feel it. A thrum of power echoed across the blade. It drove from Mihawk. There was no core or power that echoed from Mihawk, but rather it seemed like the sword was covered by Mihawk. "You see it, do you?" I shuddered and nodded. The sword was blacker than before and more resilient. It was as if his will surround the blade, making it ever stronger. "Good. Haki is not something that can just be taught after all. Teaching only brings it so far. I am curious to see if you can awaken the others of your crew." "Why me?" I asked. Mihawk turned to me, a forlorn expression. "I had a crew once myself. Not many would intrude on a duel like this to save a crew member, especially not when they are aware of the difference in strength. As I said, consider it a gift. Both for your bravery and the memories it inspired." With that, the man walked away. Luffy's expression was stone, but he let Mihawk pass him. I lifted Zoro up, ignoring the man's cry of stubborn pride. I rushed to Luffy as fast as I reasonably could. At that moment Kaya and Usopp opened the door. The poor girl gasped at Zoro's state while Usopp's eyes went wide in a mix of anger and fear. But we didn't have time for things like that. "Luffy, we need a doctor." "I am fine," growled Zoro. "You have a hole that I am currently plugging. Shut up." Zoro tried to move but my ice entrapped him. He must have been surprised that he couldn't escape it. Contrary to how some might think, escaping a frozen state was not easy. Though I doubt it would be a problem for Zoro with the way he trained. "We need the ship." "Wait, where is it?" "The ship was docked to the right." "Where the hell was it?" Where's the Mary?" I dropped Zoro in my shock. "Nami took M." I stared at Luffy's audacity. He said it so simply and nonchalant. "That was our ride, you imbecile. You let her go. No worse than that you let her take our ship." Luffy looked at me. His face was serious. "She needed to." "I admit, I haven't been the most agreeable sort lately, but I'm trusting you on this, Luffy. You know we had to go chase her, right?" Luffy nodded. "John, think you're strong enough?" I blinked. "For what?" "To freeze our way over to her." "I don't know, but I'll try." Luffy stretched up, using his vantage point to find Nami. I doubt Luffy could find her though. A ship like the Mary, with the currents the way that they were, the favorable wind, she was long gone. There was simply no possible way to go after her. Found her, she's coming back, oh fuck off. Sure enough, the Mary was slowly coming back. Sanji took this time to come out of the restaurant. His cigarette was lit, and a contemplative expression filtered in his face. Your offer still open? Luffy turned to him and grinned, nodding. My dream, it's to find the all blue. You're going to the Grand Line? You bet. Fine then. I'll join you, Captain. Awesome. Sanji turned to the restaurant and with a final drag put out his cigarette. You sure about this, lad? Sanji turned to me. I could feel his inner turmoil, even without this hockey of mine. Was it just me he didn't like? He struggled to answer. I don't know, but the old bastard is right. I can't find anything staying here, besides. His eyes were alight with a strange passion. There are so many beautiful ladies on this ship. I sighed. I was going to have to fix that, wasn't I? The Mary stopped in front of the restaurant. Nami steered the ship to port, somehow, by herself. We climbed in, her expression distraught. You came back, smiled Luffy. Nami nodded. Why did you let me go? Luffy snickered. You're our navigator, Nami. Part of my crew. I don't know whatever this was, but it seemed like something you needed to do. Nami bit her lip and turned away from us. Why couldn't you be normal? Why did you make me feel, you don't make sense? I rose my hand steadily, a little concerned for the girl's overflow of emotions. I wanted to hunt you down if that makes you feel better, lass. Thank you. Someone with a bra. Oh my god, what happened to Zoro? He got his ass kicked, laughed Luffy. Marimo bit off more than he could chew, sassed Sanji. Fuck off, Dart Brow. The hell did you call me? A block of ice protected Zoro from whatever Sanji was going to do. The men stared at it in disbelief. The hell? The entire crew stared at Sanji. What? This guy just made ice, how are you all not shocked? Kaya's face was the funniest. It was the most disappointed expression I've ever seen. Even I was a little weirded out by this. I literally froze two men in front of the entire restaurant. Sanji blinked. Don Krieg? He blinked again. You fed one of them, Jin? Who? I stared at this man. Luffy's laughter haunted me as I stared at the woman-obsessed chef. We're going to die, I muttered. I felt Usopp pat me on the shoulder while Kaya looked at me with pity. Well crew, time to set sail, declared Luffy, we have an island to go to. Nami blinked. I turned to her. Wherever you were heading, lass, that's our next destination. Thought Luffy made that clear. She teared up a bit. She looked at Luffy, who nodded. Sanji growled about something flower something. I wasn't really paying attention. All right. Now, you comfortable with telling us what this is about? Asked Zoro. It took her a while. She was silent most of the ride. In fact, she didn't talk to anyone except Luffy for a while, completely ignoring Sanji's attempts at flirting for the next 3 days. It was 3 days of the most awkward and tense feelings I think I ever had. It wasn't until the island was visible in my spyglass that she finally called all of us together. We sat on the deck as she regaled us her tale. I thought I knew what rage was. I thought I knew what it meant to suffer. But what she told me made me swallow every notion of suffering that I had ever conceived of. She watched her own mother die, to save her. Her dream was shit on by the very people that murdered her mother, her island choked by a tyrant, and the Marines too chicken shit or greedy to help. To see someone so confident be destroyed was something that I would forever remember. Luffy stood, his demeanor serious. For a moment, I felt something akin to Mahawk, a pressure. It was nowhere near as potent, but it was there all the same. Nami. This, Arlong. What do you want? She turned to Luffy. What do you want? Do you want him to suffer? He stared right into her. I'll make him suffer. I'll feed him his nose. I'll break every bone in his body before I kill him if that's what you need. For once, I was in full agreement. Perhaps it was this world that was changing me, but I felt I had become a bit too comfortable with violence as of late. But as Zoro stated, we cannot feel for our enemy. This Arlong was more than an enemy. He had irreparably harmed our navigator, destroyed her life. He is going to die. The calmness of my statement struck me. I was serious. For the first time in my life I genuinely wanted to kill someone. Oh, there were those I wanted to kill in the heat of the moment, but THS was a cold, calculated thing. Not simply to save another or defeat a foe. No, this fishman would die. Sanji took a drag of his cigarette. He turned to Nami. I'm with you. Usopp stood. He was shaking, but it slowed. I'm terrified to fight him, but you guys are right. Arlong needs to go. This can't continue. For a bunch of pirates, we were more akin to outlaws who took the law into their own hands. Though I feel as if I told Luffy that he'd punch me. So what's the plan? Attack. I stared at Luffy. Luffy rose an eyebrow. If I may, Captain. Luffy grinned and gestured for the others to close in. I struggled with what to say, but Luffy understood right away. His eyes widened. You're serious? I laughed. I didn't even say anything. It's just you've never gone full out before. I nodded and clenched my fist. Control has always been an issue, but ever since that, Since your head exploded? Supplied Kaya. Yes, that. Control has been as easy as breathing. I say let's use that to our advantage. Get in close. Get as many as we can in a small area. Then I'll try and take out as many as I can with the biggest attack I can make. I don't think this will be enough to take out Arlong, but it should be enough to take out whatever mooks he has. Luffy grinned. Finally, we just need to rush in. I turned to Nami. I suggest you hang back with Kaya, Nami, just in case. Her eyes widened. What do you mean just in case? The rest of them stared at me. In case we die, alas. If you stay behind with Kaya, that gives you both a chance to escape. Kaya is too sick to fight, and your entire village is at risk. We can make it about Arlong's bounty. At least I hope he'll fall. No, I stared at Nami. Her eyes teared up, only for a wellspring of pure will to echo through her. I could see it, churning within her, similar to Luffy's actually. Like a tiny sun, it had no color, no form. But it was undeniably her. I'm done running. I'm done, I'm just done. You told me that I had to be stronger. You were right, but if I want to get stronger than I am now, then I need to see Arlong die. I need to know I could stand up to him. I sighed. I understand. That leaves Kaya. I'll go as well. I stared at her. Fine. I wasn't in the mood to fight anyone. Besides, Kaya had said it herself. She craved freedom, not safety. I tried to take that choice once before. I won't do it again. Didn't mean I liked it though. As we neared Nami's home island, a strange cow creature rose from the sea. Before anyone could speak, Luffy's fist shot out and decked the creature in the cheek, knocking it out. No time to wait, said Luffy, we end this now. Nami stared at the impossible action, and I could see the hope beginning to grow in her eyes. I placed my hand on her shoulder. We got you, lass. You're not alone in this, not anymore. Finding a place to dock proved easier than I thought. This Arlong must have been arrogant beyond measure. There was no security, no patrols, nothing. No sign of an occupying army of any sort. Then again, the island wasn't exactly that big to begin with, and as far as I could tell, Arlong didn't have near enough men for an army of any sort. Still, to occupy an area with nothing but fear was a dangerous gambit for any standard occupier. Then Nami explained that the weird cow creature was Arlong's defense. Go figure. The fact the Marines did nothing about this whole situation just went to show how corrupt they could be. We landed and docked far enough from the village. There was no going back from this. We touched the ground and a sense of calm washed over me. I adjusted my hat and jacket, ready to fight. The rest of circled around Nami. Follow me, she said, her eyes hard with determination. One Piece Ost. Overtaken, epic version by Samuel Kim Music. We stopped for no one. The people around us called out to Nami, but she walked straight ahead, leading us into the park in the distance. It must have been quite the sight. Her leading this merry band of men, and one sick girl. Zoro, to my incredible shock, was standing and moving without a problem. What the hell was he made of? Our walk turned out to be quite short, and we found ourselves at the gate. My hat covered my eyes in shadow as the beanie flopped behind my head. I could feel my power gathering in my chest, but I kept whatever frost usually escaped in my mouth. Arlong, yelled Nami, I'm here with the berries, as promised. Nami hefted a massive bag of berries. Nowhere near the amount she technically needed for her deal with Arlong, but enough to make it seem so. Whatever sentinel this Arlong had let us in, grinning at the sight of Nami's bag. The entire park was idiotic. Perhaps I was biased, but the architecture was basic, and the entire place was designed horribly. It was just a bunch of buildings put together with a big sign. How the hell was it a park? There was nothing grand about this place. Arlong proved to be every bit the tyrant I thought of him. He had a throne, and while he was wearing some pretty normal clothes, he carried himself as if he was a king. He was large, I give him that much. He was also much stronger than anyone we'd faced in combat. Instinctively I knew that my ice was a game changer, but that strength did matter in this world. If the enemy was stronger than me by a significant margin, then my effectiveness was reduced significantly. The fishman ignored us, and focused entirely on Nami. He rested his cheek against his fist lazily, smiling all the while. Nami, you've brought me your latest catch, have you? And what of these people, bounties for me to turn in? In any other circumstances, I would have gaped at the sight of these fishmen. An entirely different race, looking completely different. It would have been amazing at any other time. Instead, I felt an instinct I never could name. It was as if I stared at these fishmen and I saw nothing but prey. Bodies to kill and be done with. It was disturbing, but today I embraced it. Was this the killer's instinct that Zoro said I needed? If this is what was required to free Nami from this shit, then fine. I'll pay it gladly. No, Arlong. This ends today. I have your berries, all of it, as promised. Leave. 8 mermen in the balconies of this area. Ha 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 ha. Why on earth would I do that, Nami? After all, you only have a fraction of what you owe, especially now. Nami grit her teeth. Another 4 were close to Arlong's side. One just exited the water on the left pool. He was a strange octopus-looking creature. I walked forward a bit, just nudging past Nami. Who the fuck are you? Grunted Arlong, another pathetic human. Luffy glared at Arlong. You're Arlong, right? The fishman blinked. Yay, what's it to you, shrimp? Luffy raised his fist and pointed at him. I'm going to break you. Ha, right. I see now. You need another reminder, Nami. Don't worry. I'll only kill a few of your neighbors after we slaughter these friends of yours. Luffy rolled his neck. John. I stepped forward and I felt it. Like a raging beast, the ice within spurned forward in a way I've never felt. The ice was always this unfeeling thing. Something I could twist and mold as needed. But today it was like a rabid animal. Snarling and twisting in place, ready to destroy, to devour. I would not stand in its way. No, I had to be honest to myself. This wasn't some random creature, this was me. All my hate and anger, everything that I've bottled up for years was focused. Its fangs ready to be bared. I stared dead on at Arlong, and let go. Frost exploded out of me, rushing forward, overtaking almost everything. The area behind me was left untouched. I felt the ice jut out of me. My once knightly armor twisting into something else. Like a beast escaping its prison, the ice came out scaled, sharp, my shape undefined and away from my view. I didn't care anymore. All that mattered now was ensuring as many of these despicable people didn't hurt Nami or her home ever again. My 2 arms went up and once again a name came unbid on my brain. Hiei no Mi. Model. NJFNFG. Ice Age. I roared that name. My arms reared back with all my strength. The sound that escaped my rageful soul was inhuman as the ice became colder. The fishman that thought they dodged soon learned otherwise. The ice that shot forth was violent but directed. Nothing was safe as the ice rushed through the ground and covered the buildings. In terms of pure ice, I covered and killed most along the balcony. Anything that dodged was speared through by the spears of ice. I kept going though, roaring out everything I could. I would destroy everything I could, obliterate any obstacle. I would become the bulwark that these enemies would break upon. The time to shy away from this reality was over. Let there be frost. As the last inhuman noise left my wrecked throat, I fell to my knees. For the first time in a while I was beyond exhausted. I could barely move. They brought a fucking logia, yelled one of the survivors. Holy shit, muttered Zoro, his eyes wide at what I wrought. I took a shaky breath. Was it wrong to kind of be proud of what I had done? Still though, nothing worth doing was ever easy, as Arlong proved. He was covered for a moment, before the ice shattered off him, his body seemingly okay from the attack. You missed, growled Arlong, His head narrowly dodged a spire that tried to kill him earlier. Missed? I chuckled weakly. No, I didn't miss. My captain said it best. He's going to break you. Have fun, you racist shit. Dear God, whispered Kaya. I spat a frozen spit on the ground. Usopp grabbed me from behind and with Kaya's help assisted me into a sitting position on one of the ridges of ice around them. Kaya rubbed her shoulders from the cold. Protect Kaya for me, yelled Usopp, rushing to join the others. I will, just give me a minute. Kaya placed her hand on my shoulder, her other hand running a soothing circle on my back. It was quite nice, honestly. Frost covered almost every inch of me, but I wasn't in my night form. Actually, this felt more natural, but less powerful. Interesting. Are you going to be okay? My ice limbs began to slowly turn back to human limbs, but I was spent. There'd be nothing I could do to help Luffy or the others. I will be just tired. I've never done that before. Kaya looked up, purposely ignoring the carnage below. It's beautiful. I looked up and smiled. All that ice converged into the center of the park, becoming a massive ice-like structure high enough to pierce the sky. I didn't want my ice to go out into the ocean or destabilize the island somehow. Seems like it worked. It shimmered with the colors of the sun, standing defiant and obscuring Arlong's park. Along the trunk were some of Arlong's unlucky men. Their blood and corpses were frozen over, turning into ice particles, not unlike a bunch of leaves. Still though, where I was seated was perfect. After all, this gave me the perfect view of Luffy fighting Arlong. What a sight it was. The boy was relentless, hammering into Arlong. When Luffy first fought me, he had been a brawler, fighting on pure instinct. The way he fought now was a combination of both Garp and me drilling into the kid to fight with his brain and gut. It took a goddamn year, for Luffy to finally listen to Garp and not flat out ignore him. The man was a lazy pain in the ass, but when it came to Luffy he was serious about training him, but only when the boy was ready to listen to the explanations that he was giving. The results showed for themselves. Luffy dodged and weaved, using his rubber body to its maximum, twisting and adjusting his body without obstructing his stance. Every blow he landed barely hurt the fishman, something he was keen to gloat about. Is that all your pathetic punches have? Luffy remained calm and simply kept hammering at Arlong. I could see that Luffy wasn't putting all his weight into those punches. The boy had a plan. He jumped up, gripping Arlong with his rubber arms. Before the tyrant could react, Luffy reeled himself into Arlong for a mighty shoulder check. Gum gum charge. Arlong barely went anywhere after Luffy's shoulder hit him, but that wasn't the end. The small distance was enough. Luffy reared his arm back, using the transfer of kinetic energy to rocket his fist back several meters. Gum gum pistol. The combination blow buried itself deep into Arlong's guts, completely surprising him and damn near folding the supposed superior fishman. Luffy gave 4 quick punches to Arlong's right ribs. The time spent hammering on Arlong showed its result, as 4 resounding cracks echoed through the park. Nami stared at Luffy. Her eyes were wide as she watched him slowly dismantle the fishman. 4 ribs turned into 8, then it was Arlong's arm, his leg, and eventually each and every part of Arlong was being battered by Luffy. To an outsider, such as myself, the fight must have seemed entirely one-sided in Luffy's favor. But with my haki I could see that Luffy was barely dodging Arlong's blows. These two were near equals, it was just that he was making the most out of every advantage he had against Arlong. He was fighting smarter, not harder, and the visible ease of his battle was the result. I was proud of the boy, especially as Arlong fell to his knees, his eyes red with blood. Fucking humans. You're all the same pieces of shit. Are you seriously trying to pin this as a racist human thing? Sighed Luffy. Come on, even I know taking over an island is wrong, so shut up. Gum gum bazooka. Luffy's fists jutted out, the resounding force snapping Arlong's nose with a resounding crack. The fishman screamed, but Luffy didn't care. Instead, he gripped the screaming Arlong's broken nose and slammed him down back into the ground. The earth shook and cracked a bit from the force of his blow. You hurt my navigator, destroyed her family. You deserve a hell of a lot more than this. But Nami is the one who will decide. Nami glared at Arlong. Behind her lied a fishman, defeated. She was bruised and had a few cuts courtesy of her battle, but she stood tall all the same. Finish it, he's not worth fussing over anymore, ever. With that, Luffy raised his leg as high as it could go. Gum gum, guillotine. It slammed with the force of an angry god right on Arlong's neck. His bones were shattered into little pieces. My senses told me that his breath was snuffed out, he was no more. It was surreal how fast something like this could go. In the distance Zoro was finishing his own fight, while Sanji and even Usopp returned from the crevices of the broken remains of Arlong's park. There was not even one left standing, but of course as of late, I was wrong. Zoro's opponent stood, his wound not as deep due to Zoro's injuries. I knew he wasn't fully recovered, I muttered, perfectly fine my ass. Kaya giggled as she helped me up. I struggled to walk but eventually, I began to recover my strength. It's over, whispered Nami, she turned to Luffy, crushing the boy in a hug. Thank you, she whispered. Luffy simply smiled back down at her, though I caught a hint of red on his cheeks. I merely let it play out. The boy would learn, as all young people do. Romance was never easy, but damn it if it wasn't worth every bit of pain it could bring. Within reason, anyways. Shall we tell your family the good news? I asked. Nami grinned, her eyes bright and hopeful. Yay. I got the perfect pyre to use for tonight's party. Luffy started laughing. She. That sounds awesome, let's party. I shook my head at their antics and sighed. This wasn't over, not yet anyways. From what Nami implied the Marines were involved, somehow, but that was for another time. Now was the time to relax and enjoy this victory. But god damn it I wanted to sleep. Hey Joe. I let the world fade as I rested, because Lord knows I needed it. The end next time on Legend of the Strawhats. Damn it John, stop flirting with her. By marine law this contraband is ours, off we go, to Luge Town. I hope this chapter was still finishing up the next segment of the Arcane Craftsman. Believe it or not, I have 4 chapters in differing levels of completion. I keep going back and forth and adjusting some plot lines. It's a lot of fun doing it that way but it's also frustratingly time-consuming. So I hope that this chapter brings some joy. Rather than put the next update cycle I'll leave it blank, all things considered. Arcane Craftsman should be up next, since the chapter is basically done, but I want it to be perfect before I send it out. Legend of the Strawhats Chapter 8. John's POV. I've felt exhaustion many times in my life. The rigors of the sea, the countless times I've pushed myself in sports, even other activities. But that attack of mine had devastated me. It felt as if every breath took what sweet energy I had left, leaving me with just enough to get by. Falling unconscious was the best outcome. I'm honestly surprised I didn't outright die. There was no question that this Ice Age attack was beyond me for now. An absolute last resort. Well, as last a resort as it could be, considering what happened. I had effectively been at full strength unleashing that skill. Can't exactly use it as a last resort if it takes everything I have. I could feel my thoughts becoming sharper as I began to wake up. Though out of everything I thought would be awaiting me, Caribbean-like music was not one of them. As my eyes drifted open, what seemed to be the most rambunctious party I've ever seen flittered across my hazy gaze. The frantic beat weaving across the dozens and dozens of people. The dancing was frantic, the people buzzing with a barely contained energy. It felt like every breath was invigorating. I was no stranger to parties. Luffy, for all his energy, never quite threw parties on the level that I was accustomed to back home. Yet, the atmosphere here was intoxicating. The music, the people, all of it, and more were elevated by a sense of relief and freedom. People ran around, the smiles on their faces threatening to break with how wide they were. I felt like a bit of a buzzkill if I was honest. If I looked anything like how I felt, I must be dreadful. Still, I had no complaints about where I was. I had been placed on a makeshift cot on the ground, beside a blazing fire, the comfortable heat seeping into my bones. While I didn't feel cold per se, the heat was a welcome addition. Here, I turned to the voice. Sanji holding a large meat dish of some sort. I didn't ask what it was, only that it smelled better than I could ever describe. Looks who's awake, muttered Zoro. To my right was Zoro, with fresh bandages on his chest. He tilted his head, pouring me a glass of whatever he was drinking in some strange coconut cup. Thanks. I took a tentative sip. It was, of course, sake. However, the sweet taste was an unexpected element. It tasted nothing like the coconut it was in. Orange sake. I stared at the man, my eyes raised. Zoro shrugged, chugging the entire bottle. I was slow to stand, my energy still low. But the food and drink were helping plenty. Across the fire that Sanji cooked with, was Kaya and Usopp. The two were chatting vividly, swaying to the sound of strings and drums, lost in their own little world. There was a Caribbean feel to the music, a group of men and women playing their hearts out to the side. So absorbed were the two into each other, they didn't notice me. I chuckled, shaking my head. The meat was savory and paired well with the strange orange spirit. Strength was slow to return, but I could state I was better off now than I was before. My body creaked as the parts of my body that were still ice grinded against my flesh, however, that worked. Devil fruits were weird. Everyone danced as if it was their last day on Earth. To think, not hours ago these same people seemed dead on their feet, the park looming over their heads as a reminder of their place. Speaking of which, the park itself was lit aflame, acting as a strange backdrop for the entire party, the ice I conjured reflecting the light across the village in a makeshift aurora of color. Yet, loud and proud through the music was a familiar chanting. Chug 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 chug. I nearly spit my drink out at the sight of Luffy chugging away at a barrel. How the hell he managed to swallow everything was beyond me. However, that wasn't the best part. The villagers surrounded him, and egged him on, all the while Nami was casually drinking on top of another barrel. I smirked, knowing the small blush on both their faces could mean something more. Then again, perhaps it didn't. I could never tell with Nami how she truly felt, though I hoped that changed in the future. Zoro finally stood up, removing the bandages on his now miraculously healed wounds. Our stoic super samurai moved to join a group of older men, intent on drinking the night away in solemn company. To each their own, I guess. Sanji, however, was the biggest surprise. Blazing in front of what has to be the most jerry-rigged barbecue I've ever seen, Sanji cooked like a man possessed. The smile on his face as everyone enjoyed his dishes made the sun seem dull in comparison. This was the real Sanji. The woman who accompanied him and assisted with his cooking seemed all the merrier with him at the helm. Go figure, the man was charming when he didn't force it. Though, perhaps he was more aware than I gave him credit for. The quiet flirting with a green-haired woman seemed to indicate some success for the man. All of this and more, it felt so complete, so beautiful, all of it, I muttered. They say nothing tastes sweeter than the fruits of your labor. This village, it was free because of us. This joy, this happiness, all of it and more was due to our actions. Was it arrogant to have pride in something like that? I found I didn't really care if it was, I felt content. I smirked a bit, looking at Kaya and Usopp having their little dance. Kaya wasn't entirely healthy yet, but the girl seemed entranced, enjoying the movement and energy she hadn't possessed for years. This was living. For the first time in a while, I felt weightless. I felt happy in the fullest sense. So, the sleeping hero wakes up. I turned to face a tanned woman with blue hair of all things. Can I help you, lass? The woman blinked. I know Nami said you talked weird, but I thought she meant that in how you talked, not how you talked. I smirked. I think I got what she meant by that, probably. As I've been told numerous times. The night partied on from there, with this strange woman taking a seat beside me. Nijiko, Nami's sister. She was stunning, no question. If circumstances were different, I might have tried to get to know her better. However, her relationship with Nami quelled my less platonic desires. It would have felt like wooing a cousin. Ew. John, the quartermaster. Nijiko blinked, but isn't that? I gave a shrug. Take that up with our captain. He keeps giving me more duties and calling me a quartermaster. The silence between us was a little awkward, but I diligently ate the food Sanji had made for me. As I expected, it was exquisite. After a moment, Nijiko leaned forward, staring at the bits of ice on my neck. So, that whole ice thing, was you? That's correct. I still can't believe that devil fruits are real. I mean, even watching him I still can't believe it. Luffy was the life of the party, letting some of the younger adults jump on his inflated body, for what reason I really don't know. Sorry if I seem a bit forward in asking this, but can I see it? I shrugged, not really blaming her curiosity. I lifted my arm, letting it shift into a crystalline structure. I blinked, staring at a strange, clawed hand, though it disappeared back into its usual gauntlet state. Wow, does it hurt? Not at all. You're welcome to touch it if you'd like. Without a sense of hesitation, she gripped my arm. The exaggerated way she fondled it was weird. The sensation was even weirder. It felt like a distant skin. I could feel her hand, but it felt muted, dull. I raised an eyebrow and noticed Nami giving me the stick eye in my peripheral vision. I appreciate the attention, lass, but I don't wish. She winked at me. It took a moment for it to click. Nami, Nijiko grinned. She said you were some kind of womanizer. I can feel her eyes on me even now. My face became stony at the way that little brat described me. Cheeky brat. Nijiko chuckled a bit and leaned closer. I like teasing her. She's already blowing a conniption just looking at us. I have a distinct feed of inside joke. A what? Ah, a running joke between you and Nami. Nijiko blinked and shrugged. Sure, you can think of it like that. I love Nami to death, but she deserves a bit of teasing. I tried flirting with her captain just to rile her up and the man just completely ignored it. Yes, is he? I don't know, into men or something. I'm not judging, but people don't usually turn down this. I shrugged. Not really knowing one way or the other. Nor was it my place to state either. Nami just laughed it off when I tried to hold his arm. Just drifted out of my hold, yet your Straw Hat captain seemed right at home with her. He's just like that. He's not a big fan of people touching him. Take enough beatings from Garp and you'd be averse to people being too close too. Nijiko chuckled as she leaned forward, all the while staring at Nami as the poor lass veins began popping. So, care to play? This seemed to be going way too fast, but fuck it, why not? Apparently, I was a womanizer. Might as well live up to the title. I leaned in, whispering into Nijiko's ear. Shall we prove her right then? Nijiko laughed, standing up and holding a hand out to me. I took her hand, slowly following her lead. I like you, you're more fun than the other two. Sanji and Zoro. Sanji's nice, don't get me wrong. But the whole puppy affection's a bit of a turn off. I nodded. Though, this was supposed to be about a joke, right? And Zoro is Zoro, I supplied. Basically, that, and the other one is so smitten with that smaller girl. It's sickeningly sweet, she muttered. They are adorable. It's been a joy watching them settle into their feelings, I replied. Still felt like a voyeur, but the truth was there was little room on the ship. Privacy was going to die a brutal death on our journey. Nijiko didn't let me fester in my thoughts as she dragged me near the other dancers. With a slight nod, a slower tune began to play. Our bodies moved with the music. A thumping beat and a shake of our hips, and I was lost in the moment with her. How long has it been since I had gone dancing with a friend? No emotional byplays, no strange foreplays, just a dance. Just the music and them. I hadn't danced in years, but much like a bike, it came as naturally as breathing. I was no maestro when it came to dancing, but I could certainly hold my own. Though, I doubt the way I moved was as Nijiko intended. The way she smiled told me it didn't matter. Deciding to have a little fun, I grabbed Nijiko's hand. I took the lead with the strange song playing, and with her firmly in my arms I slid backwards on a slide of ice. She squeaked as leaned into me for support. I spun her around and the ice sputtered away like snowflakes. People cheered at the sight of the ice, but I was more focused on my dance partner. Having fun? Nijiko turned a bit, eyeing Nami, biting her lip. Oh, plenty. Nothing feels as good as getting back at your sister. I snorted. I knew the feeling well. The number of times me and my brother would rib each other over the silliest thing. Even as old as we had become, we always got back at each other. God, I fucking miss him. I miss everyone. A soft hand touched my face. You okay? I smiled. I am. Just old memories. A glint of understanding flittered between us. Nami's story filtered through my memories. I understand. Yes, she really would, wouldn't she? The specifics were not the same, but the end result was all too similar. I know. I smiled, turning to the musicians. A violin caught my eye, standing alone on a crate near us. Nijiko was quick on the uptake. It was obvious she was trying to make me feel better. She grabbed it before I could say anything, and I felt the weight of the instrument in my hands as she shoved it into my chest. My practiced fingers curled around the neck. The bow settled into my right hand like an old friend. You play? It started as it usually did. Even in this younger body, I could feel it in my bones, the thrum of the music. Yet, the familiar strength left my hands. I could feel whatever desire I had to play shrivel up within me. This wasn't the first time I felt this way, after all. Playing music only reminded me of her. An old wound, long since healed. But even the oldest wounds leave their scars. My muse for song died along with her all those years ago, a shame really. No, I smiled, not really, though I have to say this is a fantastic violin. Keep it. I stared at her. No, this belongs in the hands of a genuine musician, not me. Nijiko proved to be a far wiser woman than I gave credit for. She smirked a bit, staring at my hands. Right, 'cause newbies just know how to hold instruments right the first time around. Consider it a personal gift. It belonged to old Barnes. He couldn't pay the tax a few years back and, well, long story short, the old man swore he'd travel the seas with nothing but his whiskey and his violin, even though the old fool was well over 80. When Arlong came for him, he gave me that violin to keep, till someone came along that could take it on that journey he wanted. At the sound of whiskey, I perked up. You have whiskey? Nijiko cringed. Hell no, that tasteless piss was one of the, oh. I chuckled a bit, shaking my head. What is with you people and your distaste for whiskey? You're the fourth island I've come across that doesn't carry the damn spirit. I sighed. Bourbon, whiskey, scotch, none of them were on any of the islands I've come across. The only reason I even knew the alcohol existed was because of Garp and his personal stash. Honestly, was it too much to ask just to have something familiar? I rubbed my head in exhaustion. The dancing, the memories, all of it was more taxing than I'd like to admit in my current state. Maybe there was something to Luffy eating the way he did. Tired? I chuckled. More than I'd like to admit, yes. Is there a place I can rest? Nijiko had a strange grin as she nodded. For sure, follow me. I can show you one of the empty houses you can stay in. Excellent. Rather not bring the party down. Seems like it's just getting started. It was too. The energy somehow got even more frantic. A frenzy of emotions and repressed feelings were exploding outwards. People were dancing, eating, and kissing the night away. It was honestly quite vexing that I just didn't have the stamina to enjoy it. But a person like me would just bring the mood down right now. Shame. The island was smaller than I gave it credit for. It was not but a few moments before I found myself in the house Nijiko was talking about. She was sweet, helping me find the room and getting me settled. Though, the odd grin was a bit disturbing. There was more to this, obviously. Yet, I was too tired to care. With that final thought, I drifted off to sleep again. My dreams were nothing but eventually within this black slate a single tree grew. It was like a silvery oak, standing tall and proud. The branches of this tree slowly grew, and as it did, I could feel more of myself relax. My eyes opened as sunlight broke through the window. The sheets had long since fallen off me. The only thought in my mind was the fact that I was in yesterday's clothes and I was in a desperate need of a shower. I opened the door and a head of orange hair stared at me. You? Me? What did you do with Nijiko? I snorted. That was the wrong thing to do apparently. Nami pouted and jammed her finger into my chest. The first few pokes didn't do a thing. Then out of nowhere her bony fingers somehow jabbed my chest painfully. I cringed at the unexpected pain. I could have sworn a flicker of black echoed through her. Gah! Damn it, lass, that hurt. Good, I don't need you sleazing up my sister. I would never. We danced for a bit and then she brought me to this house to sleep. Our house. You think I'm stupid? Oh, that would explain the grin that Nijiko had. I assure you, Nami. Nothing happened. She took a breath and sighed. Honest. Fine. How are you? You okay? I nodded, flexing my arm. I feel RT, must admit though. I've never been that exhausted before. Maybe Luffy's onto something about eating so damn much. Now that I thought about it, I have never actually been full in this world. I just ate what I thought was a normal amount. Something to check later. We don't need two gluttons eating us out of house and ship. A fair point. I promise, I can at least control myself. Though I think Luffy is more likely to listen to you than me. I grinned a bit at the scowl Nami shot me. We both noticed the slight blush she had. Quiet you. I chuckled a bit and ruffled her hair. Hey, I entered what I assumed was the kitchen. I licked my lips at the sight of a strange orange pancake-looking item. Nami nodded at me, and I ate with gusto. As I ate, there were two things I noticed. 1, that this was orange-flavored. 2, that I was hungry. It wasn't a bottomless hunger, but I ate far more than I expected. I felt a little pride at the fact I wasn't a total slob like Luffy though. The boy could pack it in, but seriously, chew with your mouth closed. As I ate, I noticed that I began to perk up. I had more energy than I've had in a while. In fact, as I ate my 8 waffles and my 3rd glass of tangerine juice, I felt more energized than ever. My breath came out cold as the frost in my chest felt brighter. It didn't feel any stronger, but just more. It was a difficult concept to explain. I swallowed the last bit of food, turning to face the door, a pep in my step. Where's Luffy and the others? Luffy's been busy destroying the rest of Arlong Park. The rest of it? Nami smiled, a little goofy smile, and just shrugged helplessly. I might have mentioned wanting to raze it to the ground if I had the power to. Luffy's been at it all night. Last I saw, there was barely any rubble left of it. He's got Zoro and Sanji sorting through whatever they find during his little rampage. I think Usopp was also rebuilding something. The only left here is you, John. I rolled my shoulders, feeling ready for the day. Got it. So, what's your plan? Getting supplies and then heading out. What? Nami blinked. Can't stay here forever, we gotta see to explore. We can stay a few days, lass, there's no need to rush. Nami chuckled. I know that, but I'd rather avoid the Marines if we can. Luffy defeating Arlong is going to make waves across the entire sea. If we don't hurry, making it to the Grand Line will be a lot harder than it needs to be. A fair point. Nami had traveled this sea more effectively than any other member of the crew, not to mention for much longer as well. If there was someone that would know the political landscape, it would be her. At least for here, anyways. Still, there was one point of concern. You seem awfully worried about the Marines caring about what happens with Arlong. They had a bounty out for him, I doubt they'll care if he's dead. Nami scowled. Just want to be safe than sorry. There was this Marine who would patrol this area that has me a bit concerned. There was more to it than that, but she had said a lot over the last 2 days, more than she was likely comfortable sharing. I wouldn't press her. Rubbing her hair for the 3rd time, I exited the house, ignoring the screeching redhead behind me. I felt my mind shudder at the feeling of something new. An echo, a faint brush of something. I turned to the northeast, watching the skyline in the distance. Down a beaten road came a group of Marines, a strange man at their forefront. No, I'm sorry, but I had to be honest. Strange was giving the man more credit than he was due. The man was just straight up odd, like a living mouse. Without thinking about it, I put Nami behind me as the man grew closer. I wheezed as her fist drove into my side, the impact somehow bypassing my seemingly impervious body. What was she made of? Nami walked around me, her eyes raised in a challenging manner. Can I help you? The mouse man turned forward to Nami, his grin becoming a dark, malicious thing. It would have been intimidating on a less ridiculous person. Ah, just who we are looking for. Me and my men have been sent to investigate the sudden disappearance of the fishermen pirates that took root here. Arlong and his ilk have disappeared, breaking quite a few regulations in doing so. As you are the only crew member of the Arlong pirates. Wait, he named his crew after himself. What an asshole, I thought. We will be taking you into custody. On what charges? The man turned to me, his eyes dismissive. Excuse me? The charges. I would like to hear them, along with the proof that this woman is a part of the Arlong pirates. Nami smirked. Arlong pirates? You must be mistaken, I've never been a pirate my whole life. The Marine smirked. I don't think you know who you're messing with. By the authority of the world government, we will be arresting this young woman and confiscating all of the belongings of the Arlong pirates. Nami and I looked at the man, then at each other. She must have thought the same thing I did, because we both grinned and gestured towards Arlong Park. Sure, go right ahead, of course. Makes sense to confiscate all that pirate stuff. The man had the audacity to beam at us, as if his authority had been respected. The poor grunts behind him sighed and shook their heads. Excellent, we'll come back for you, little missy. The man's sneer turned deadly as he turned to his men. Come on, men. We have pirates to arrest, We'll be back for you, Missy. I stared at this weirdo. Who says the same thing twice like that? We watched the man leave, Nami's stupefied face causing me to chuckle. There was also the fact that this man was just outright dumb. Who came here and basically admitted he was in with the pirates. Really, coming to investigate the disappearance of the pirates? Come on, what a joke. Does that idiot genuinely believe I'm going to wait? I shrugged. Perhaps. Doesn't matter. I'll see if I can't find their ship. Why? I grinned. So I can sink it. She blinked and held her hand to her chest. John, doing property damage against the government? Luffy has finally corrupted you. I rolled my eyes. Your boy toy is a whole different level of chaos than Milas. I'll see you later. It took the poor girl a second to decipher what I meant. The screeching I heard told me all about how she felt about it. Making fun of her was like a balm for my soul. Either way, the small size of Nami's home island worked out for me in this instance. There was really only one dock that was of a substantial size. Sure enough, a marine ship was docked there, alone. Honestly, the strangest part of this entire world I'm in has to be the sheer absurdity of only needing so few people to man the ships. That and the idiot who leaves their ship unattended in supposed pirate territory. With a breath of frost, a spear of ice jutted from the ground in front of me, piercing the hull with a loud creaking crunch. I made sure to avoid the keel. It was one thing to prevent the boat from leaving. It was another thing to purposely aim for the keel of a ship. Call me a sentimental fool, but it felt wrong to do such a thing to a ship like this. Still, perhaps there was something on this ship I could use. I hopped onto the smallish vessel, peeking through what few rooms it had. The size and shape of the ship made it obvious it was built for speed. There was not a single weapon that I could find aboard. There were a number of firearms and a barrel of ammunition. The strangest part had to be the way ammunition was used. The guns looked for all intents and purposes like an old rifle from the colonial periods. Yet, it loaded and fired much like a modern gun. I'll say it time and again, this place was weird. The ammunition proved heavier than I thought, but it wasn't too much trouble to load the barrel over my shoulder and carry a good few rifles under my arm. I even took a pair of pistols just for the shits. Stealing from an asshole was a lot more fun than I anticipated. Crap, Nami was riding me. Rather than risk being spotted on land, I took the relatively short way back to the ship. My newfound control made it a breeze for me to skate across the sea and to our ship. The Going Merry stood proud, even with a goat headmast. It was moored as close to land as we risked it before Arlong. With a rampart launching me up, I landed on the ship and quickly loaded it with what I brought. I had zero clue what Nami was going to bring, so I did a quick double check. Food was alright, stocked well and true. Toiletries were a problem. I was thankful for the plumbing this ship came with, but seriously, we needed a king's ransom in toilet paper between every island at this rate. I highly doubted my crewmates would want an icicle toilet paper. Cannons, all three of them, were good to go, but our supply of ammunition was short. I titled my head, feeling the flickering presences of what I assumed was my crewmates. This had to be whatever hockey was, it had to be. Yet, every time I tried to grip the sensation, it slipped through my metaphorical fingers. This was going to take a while to get used to. A loud thunk echoed as I heard Luffy's chuckle. Ju Ohn, we're back. I walked through the kitchen, nodding to Sanji as I walked past him. The man was carrying an absurd amount of food, his grin nothing but pure joy at having a spice rank included in his haul, that and some purple lipstick on his cheek. On the main deck, Luffy's giant grin was quick to launch into my face, my captain extending his neck to greet me. How you feeling? Better. We have a heading. Luffy gave a smaller grin, but it was filled with something more. I didn't need hockey to tell me that. You bet. Nami has us heading out, though she wants to head out as soon as possible. I rose an eyebrow, watching our resident navigator move with more of fervor than I expected. What happened? Nami turned to me, a stupid grin that did not at all match the growl in her voice. Luffy happened. He full-on decked that stupid marine. We had to start running after that. I blinked. I should have figured. Usopp walked past me carrying a tree with Zoe. Wait. I stared as the two carried 3 trees. I stared, trying to calculate the absurdly quick packing and travel they had done. Was I losing track of time? It felt like barely 30 minutes had passed and yet they came here with everything we needed. Kaya came up behind Usopp carrying a surprising amount of weight for a girl her size. I smiled, helping the poor lass carry the weight she was beginning to struggle with. The fact that she was sick not too long ago and was now carrying 2 bags of what appeared to be dirt just made me smile. The people of this world had proven to be far hardier than I could have imagined. Wait, did that mean I was too? God, that would suck to find out that I was more fragile. Oh right, devil fruit. It was strange having so much more energy than usual. It was harder to focus. So, how long do we got? I asked Nami. From the top of the upper deck Nami looked down, her own smirk growing. Since you sunk the ship? A few weeks, really? That seemed ridiculous. A few weeks to get off the island, with the resources they had? Nami nodded. I'd be surprised if he brought a mushi snail. If he's there to collect pirate bounty then there is zero chance he has leave to do so. He can't report anything without incriminating himself. I blinked. My first thought was to ask about the snail, wondering where we could get some of our own. The second was silently thinking that Nami's thoughts were flawed. She assumed that the corruption of the Marines was a constant, never changing. But the way Garp described his situation made it clear that Marines were constantly being crushed for being corrupt, with new Marines taking their place. Right, anyway, if we got a few weeks head start on them, what about Logetown? Nami's map was unfurled in front of her. A few moments later and the girl had already charted a course. A few days. Really? Nami nodded, rolling her map up. So long as the winds hold up, we can make it. Gives us a lot of time to get things ready for the Grand Line. Luffy pouted, sitting on the deck. Aw come on. What's with all this preparation? I say we just go. No, echoed 4 of us. Luffy wilted a bit. I knelt beside the boy. Remember what we talked about when you were younger? Luffy nodded. I smiled sweetly at the boy, gripping his shoulder lightly. Now, remember what you did at the beginning of our adventure? Luffy nodded again, his face showing some dread as I gripped his shoulder harder, ice creeping across his skin. Good that you remember, because we're not doing that again. But, I gripped as hard as I could, and the boy began to shiver. I opened my eyes and growled. We're not doing that again. We have to get Kaya looked at by a doctor, and we need information. Even with the Marines blocking the Grand Line, hundreds of ships per year still fall to the treachery of whatever that place is. We need to be prepared. Still, you have a point. Loitering around out of fear won't help us either. I leaned against the railing of our ship, as Nami hoisted the sails up, the wind beginning our next journey. I assumed that Nami and the others had said their goodbyes. I admit, I felt bad for not saying goodbye, but the Marines necessitated a quick leave. Our next few days were filled with the standards of travel. Nami's skill seemed to shine ever brighter, the ship moving seamlessly in a way that I could never do. I admit I was jealous. I was closing in on 40 nowadays and this young lass destroyed my skill at the sea. She could feel the wind and judge the sea in a way I could never truly appreciate, though I think I was the only one on the ship that could even fathom the absurdity of her skill. Any captain worth their salt would be groveling at this girl's feet to have her be their navigator. Luffy's luck remained blessed. When we finally arrived at Logetown, I was busy doing final counts across the ship, double-checking exactly what we needed. The ship shuddered a bit as it docked, and I made my way back to the deck. The timing was great, as I had just finished tallying what we needed. Before I forget, I grabbed the stack of berries I left hidden in an ice block in my room. Going forward, it will be easier to get our resources, now that we knew the dimension and size of our crew. Still, was someone yelling? Hey, it's not just your money, I sighed. Here we go. Sure enough, Nami's greedy nature had reared its head. She scoffed at Zoro, turning her nose at the swordsman. You'll just spend it on drinks or something, true. So, I need a new sword, which, also true. I gave Zoro a large portion of the stack I had accumulated. Nami's eyes near bulged out of her skull at the amount. Here Zoro, this might be enough. Let me know if you need more. The man stared at me as Usopp stared at the money, his face twisted in disbelief. How? Where? I shrugged. To be honest, I had been skimming off the enemies and pirates that we have met in battle whenever I got the chance. You'd be quite surprised how often you'd find a significant amount of money on these people. Without the bank system as I knew it, most people kept their money close to them. The pirates, with no home and a mistrust of each other, probably always carried most of their cash with them. It worked out for me. Zoro simply grunted. Usopp was dragged lightly by Kaya to the harbor master. Is she? Nami nodded, pointing at our mast and flag. Neither bore the symbol of a pirate. In fact, it bore what I could only assume was the symbol of Kaya's business. They were the extra sails we had taken down to make room for Luffy's Jolly Roger. She's registering this for her business, and liquefying her assets while she's here. I stared at Nami, but kept my mouth shut. To be fair to Kaya, there was no real way that she could run her business any longer. There was no one that she trusted to run the books, and it was obvious that she ally-man her parents' business. While there would certainly be people affected by her decision, the truth was that they would likely be in the same boat either way. They either lost the business because their owner had zero experience, or they lost the business because the owner sold it. Lose-lose. At least by selling her assets, the workers had a chance of their employment continuing under another banner. Still, that was Kaya's battle to fight. Me and Nami had other plans. Alright, so where to? Nami blinked, staring at me. Luffy already ran off and I have nowhere to go. What say we hit the town? Sanji is grabbing the food, so that leaves us for everything else and wherever else you want to go. Nami grinned, sizing me up. You'll do. She seemed disappointed by my lack of response. This wouldn't be the first time shopping with a friend. Even if Nami was a shopaholic, I doubt it would surprise me. This town, however, this was certainly surprising me. Stalls and shops littered every wake of life here in this town. It was as if all four C's could be found here in some capacity. Nami's first stop was a clothing store. She and I bought a great deal of clothing from the place, especially those made from the same water-resistant fibers I still didn't believe actually existed. Nami even went as far as buying the fabrics themselves. Did she think we were going to recruit a tailor or something? The amount of clothes that Nami bought was absurd, though the fact she kept trying to make me spend my money was the greater concern. Honestly, I've never seen a cheaper human being. Clothing, accessories, navigational tools. The list went on as we toured through the town. Eventually we finally went to the first shop of my choice. I was biased, of course, but I though had to be the most important one. The Mushi Snail Shop. We entered, Nami's items being delivered to the ship, a thankful service made possible by both Kaya's legal entry and Nami's massive purchase. I found it strange that the snails were all neatly in order, displayed like any other normal item. Yet, their bodies were obviously alive. They even be-liked slowly, though the one with the lazy eye kept eyeing me the whole time. Hello and welcome. I turned to the young woman manning the counter. She wore a strange beige uniform. Was it supposed to represent the snails? She also looked like she would rather be anywhere else than here. Her twitching eye was obvious from the get-go. Her face faltered as she stared at me. Ah, hello lass. I was wondering if you could help me? Oh, of course. Whatever you need, dear customer. I smiled, ignored the blank look Nami shot my way. I didn't want to hear it from the girl that had zero qualms with using her own sex appeal. Get off your high horse, weirdo. I leaned against the counter and pointed to the snails. I gotta ask lass, what on earth are they? Before she could even open her mouth I gave an easy smile. I've seen them before, but my home island was rather closed off from much of the other larger cities and kingdoms. I've always wondered what sort of care went into these snails and how to use them. The girl blushed a bit as she scratched her head. I actually know a lot, but it can be pretty boring. You sure you want to know? It would probably be the equivalent of some young kid explaining their hyper-advanced cell phone to their WW2 vet grandparent. But I didn't care. I was deeply interested. She explained for a good 30 minutes about the creatures, and I was happy to report that they were disturbingly easy to use and take care of. Emphasis on disturbing. These creatures were referred to as a Den Mushi and were comprised of a race of telepathic snails. The race themselves were not that sapient. How that worked for a race capable of telepathic powers was beyond weird. They didn't understand human speech, didn't move much, barely ate, and slept all the time. How this species even survived was beyond me. It was obvious they were mostly bred in captivity, but the cashier assured me that they could be found in the wild. For something so handy I couldn't help but wonder why they were not more widely available. The poor girl answered my questions dutifully, even though I didn't respond to her flirting. The first reason was rather simple. The cost. The snail itself was actually quite cheap for what it offered, a measly 90,000 berries for each full-grown snail. The snails were massive, the size of cats with a variety of shells. In fact, there was a crew pack that was comprised of a mother and her young. Apparently, the species was incredibly long-lived, with the snails remaining small for a full human lifetime before they grew rapidly to fit their full shell. Their adolescent years spent building up the resources needed to create the larger shell. The mother and her children were a package deal for 120,000 yen. A damn steal, until she began to describe the other costs. No, the issue came with the accessories. If we wanted full capability with the creature, it required a ridiculous fee of 467,957 berries just for the mother. An additional 100,000 berries for the children's accessories. It was fucking evil and was incredibly commonplace back in my own world. Sell the long-lived product cheap, but make the accessories that made it work properly expensive and short-lived. The cashier, bless her little heart, was honest and upfront with me. The materials and gear used with these snails were not designed to weather things at sea for long periods of time. In fact, most companies designed them purposely that way, to ensure a continued flow of funds. The only exception being military-grade snails. Even with that warning, I was sold. In this world, the use of instant information may be an overlooked concept, but I knew the truth. The ability to communicate in real time was a far greater boon than any devil fruit, at least in my opinion. It took a fucking hour of arguing for Nami to relent and dip into her ludicrous funds for the purchase. I could have paid for a decent portion, but I had plans tonight that needed some flush cash. No, this was a crew purchase, and it should be treated as such. She was the crew's treasurer, then she needed to act like it, though I had to promise her to scrounge the money from the rest of the crew at a later time to pilfer into her personal funds. But it was worth it. We had our own means of communication, so long as we had the numbers and frequency to home in on. The employee was a big help in that regard, giving us to what amounted as radio stations for these living creatures and how to navigate the horrible user guide. The mother and the other snails barely registered we existed as we stored them in a traveling box and had them delivered to the boat. A large circular tub of feed was given to us for free. What astounded me was the fact that this supposed tub would last this entire family a full year. Now, under ordinary circumstances, I would simply return to the boat and call it a day, but the truth was that I needed some me time. Once we were in the streets and have shopped at a few other stores, I bid Nami farewell. "Alright Nami, need me to walk you to the ship?" She flipped me the bird. She was still made about paying for the snails, it seems. "Go away. Make sure to tell the others I am boarding for the night here at the Salty Tavern." A horrible name. Nami ignored me and made her way back, not the ship, the midday sky turning amber as the sun slowly settled. Finally, I was alone. Being left to my own devices was like a balm to my very soul. I entered the worn tavern, enjoying the local atmosphere. The woman who manned the counter was an absolute stunner. There was no question of it, she was on the older side. Possibly the later half of 30 at the worst. Her chestnut hair was vibrant, as what few wrinkles marred her perfect skin only added to her sophistication. While my body may have been young, my mind and preferences were far from it. I had always had a healthy appreciation for an older woman. I had little interest in younger women, such as 20 or 19. At least for me. I could never look at Nami the same way I looked at this woman. Her hips were generous, and her chest was easily a knockout, equal for Nami's, but it was her eyes. They were a brilliant shade of purple, the likes I've never seen before. They lured me in as her knowing smile gestured me forward. The way she held herself told me this was a woman who knew just how beautiful she was and wore that confidence proudly. "What can I get you for, young man?" I inwardly chuckled as the woman crossed her arms, adjusting her breasts forward. Was she playfully flirting with me? How adorable. But I was no boy turned man, I wouldn't make this easy for her. I sat down with a practiced ease, decades of experience honing my attention. I wanted this woman, hopefully she felt the same. Instant attraction was a necessary part of the exchange after all. What woman wanted to waste her time with a man she didn't like, and vice versa? Nothing cringier than a person that didn't take no for an answer, or worse yet, confused persistence with being forceful. I leaned forward just as the owner had, keeping our faces about a ruler's distance between us, a good 30 centimeters. Looking for a room for a night, possibly more. I heard this place was good for it. What is your rate per night? The woman blinked, but didn't move away. Good, this did not imply interest as much as it was a competitive streak. She didn't want to be the first to back away. I may have a few rooms, they'll be 8,000 berry a night. I smirked. The tourist price. Cute. I got up and simply left. She was exactly my type. A confident woman who didn't give a shit and knew exactly who they were. But I wasn't paying such an absurd upcharge. Simply walking through these streets, even for as short a time I have, made it clear. 8,000 was far too much. I couldn't go far though as she gripped my arm, her smile widening. Geez, not much of a joker, are you? I shrugged. I know a bad deal when I hear it, lass. She bit her lip, staring at me. Ooh, you're the dangerous sort, aren't you? You're barking up the wrong tree with me, young man. I grinned. Am I? I merely asked for a place to stay for the night. She rolled her eyes and backed off. I eased off her bar stand, and she gestured to me above her head. Sure enough, the price was right there in big red letters, easily visible in this dusty atmosphere. A man looking for the prices doesn't need to talk to me that way. I suggest you graze elsewhere. I don't ride young bucks. This had to be hilarious. She talked as if she was from the southern ends of Texas without the accent. I dated a girl from there once, a real livewire. She had a thirst for life that eclipsed mine 100 times over. It was her that got me into a few of the extreme sports I ended up loving. Aw Sadie, I hope things back home had cleared up for you. Still, she wasn't the focus right now. You make it seem as if I'm inexperienced. The woman scoffed at me, cleaning a bar glass. Sure. I, flattered by the thought, but no, I shrugged easily. It would have been nice, but no meant no. Well, while I would love to prove your assumptions wrong, I am genuinely here about the place. You have a room free? She nodded. The suite area, she said, using her fingers as air quotes. 3,000 berries a night for that room, though food is included. Drinks? Any of the spirits you see, you get 3 shots for free a night with that room. I'll take it. I gave her the money quickly. I pulled out a book and noticed that there was an empty table not far off. I'll take your steak and, I smiled, finally, it was here. I'll have a glass of the white smoke whiskey. The woman stopped rubbing her glass and stared at me. The entire bar went quiet. I turned to stare at all of them, some of the older men having quiet chuckles. You really must be new around here if you want to drink that swill. Only Captain Smoker can drink that crap without passing out. I rose an eyebrow. Really? She nodded, but then smirked. Tell you what, Squirt, if you can drink 1 shot of white smoke without passing out, I'll tell you my name. I bowed my head slightly. I'll hold you to it. She was quick to offer me a drink, her intrigue obvious. The drink came out like hazy water. There was a bitterness to it and the smell of nuts as I downed the spirit. It filled me with the pleasant burn that I had been missing for some time. The burning sensation was a bit much, I'll admit. But the results speak for themselves. I have to say, the alcohol in this drink was ridiculous though, it hit me like a road hammer to the gut. Still, wasn't the worst I've had. That honor went to the moonshine produced by Clayton on the banks of Prince Edward Island. Now that was a drink that would knock you out. I placed the glass in front of her, giving an easy smile. Thanks, I'll have one on the rocks at my table when you get a moment. There was no band, rowdy as this place was. Made it easier to focus on my book as I waited for the food. The book I had acquired as a simple novel, one that told the story of a young man wanting to find the island of dreams. Honestly, it sounded a lot like the One Piece, but without the pirates. It told of the desire to set sail, but without the plundering of piratedom. It was funny in a way, how privateering was not a concept out on these oceans. There was definitely people who did it. There was not a chance that every single person stayed home and never ventured the oceans. Yet, it was strange how this government went out of their way to make it difficult to simply have a boat and sail the oceans freely. If I had to hazard a guess, it likely had to do with the desire to control and their inability to monitor the difference between pirates and privateers. My own world's history would speak to a few instances in which innocent privateers would be attacked by military forces, simply for being suspected of being pirates. I had just gotten to the 4th chapter when the bartender brought me my food. I smiled, putting a thin layer of frost to act as a bookmark on my page. "Thank you," I nodded. The older woman bit her lip and shook her head. "Anna." I looked up at her, about to use my utensils. She scoffed a bit, smirking. "My name, it's Anna." I smiled back. "A pleasure, Anna. My name is John. Now, feel free to ignore me, but when you're off, feel free to have a drink with me. I'll be here most of the night away from my crew, for a little solitude." Anna rose an eyebrow. "Your crew?" I began to cut my steak into pieces while I talked to her. "Yes, my crew." I noticed that the drinks here were far from cold. The drink they made was nice, but I liked mine chilled whenever possible. I touched the glass, letting my ice frost over it. Anna blinked, not noticing the cup. "Well?" She blinked at me, her smile growing. "You're dead serious?" I smirked. "I'm not a child. If you want to simply spend the night talking away, I'll consider that a night well spent. If you want to spend it elsewhere, go for it. I like you, I want to spend time with you, if you're up for it." I meant it too. Comfort was everything. If all someone was comfortable with was talking, then so be it. Disappointing, sure, but I didn't dictate my happiness or enjoyment based off of someone else's response. "I'll think about it." I raised my glass to her and returned to my book. I wouldn't wait on her. I planned to finish my book and head to bed, sipping away on the whiskey I haven't had for literally 2 years. I got to about the 18th chapter when Anna joined my table. In her hands was 2 large mugs, not unlike a fantasy ale mug. It was filled with a sweet liquid that smelled like honey. This was ale. "So," Anna smirked, leaning back. She pushed her chest out. "A few buttons have been loosened from before. So, how about you start off with who you are?" I smiled. "My name is John, and I am just a man out on the sea with his friends, seeing where the wind takes us. Well, as much as the winds can take us with my captain at the helm." "Why?" I learned that Anna was a mother of 2, her husband having left some time ago. The Salty Tavern had been a family-owned enterprise since before even the Pirate King, attracting what few tourists existed for the last 87 years. Her favorite color was blue, she liked her steak rare, and preferred a gritty story over some romance. She spoke of dreams, of a rare adventure out on the sea, of a life well lived and well loved. Though, it was a life that had grown a bit dull as of late, with her kids now entering their teenage years. Cher had been craving some excitement, one that I was happy to oblige with. 1 drink turned into 3 before I asked her what her plans were for the night. 3 drinks turned into a dance on the open floor, beside the band that arrived later in the night. A dance on the floor turned into a dance upstairs. She was an excellent kisser and, as I later found out, was a fan of going commando. Who knew? I doubt we went on for hours on end. It certainly felt like it, but the SX had been enjoyable precisely because of our little imperfections. It was awkward but fun, as we explored our bodies with the uncertainty of someone new. Though, she seemed oddly receptive to me, I would admit. It was strange how into it she became as we progressed further. Never had a partner so enthusiastic to return foreplay with me. I wasn't complaining, mind you. The night had ended splendidly, with Anna even deciding to stay the night. As I awkwardly learned, her kids lived in this building with her. A quick talk and she joined me back into bed, naked as she had been previously. It was a weird, but fantastic night. Her warmth spread across my body and I stayed up the whole night. As a logia, my need for sleep was drastically lessened. While I would have loved to simply sleep the night away, I wasn't confident that my body wouldn't turn to ice in my sleep and kill this poor woman. Besides, she was adorable as she slept, and it was easy to finish my novel as she slept on my chest. I smiled a bit, keeping a nice chill in the warmer, moist air. Still, as most things do, they end. Though I doubt they ended with your idiot captain barging into the room with the rest of your crew. He didn't even smash the door open, the fucking dumbass just ramming in without a care. "Wake up, Joe Urk." My frost-encased fist smashed into Luffy's rubber head, knocking the boy back into the hall where the others waited. Nami was snickering at what happened as Zoro and the others smirked, until they noticed my bed partner scrambling to cover herself. I didn't even think, creating the ice to cover the bed behind me. Damn it, lad. Fucking knock. Frost covered my naked body like a suit of armor. I turned to the door, sighing at its broken hinges. Damn it, lad, we're not made of money. I noticed Nami and Kaya blushing a bit. Really, lass, you let him just ram into my room? Nami blinked out of her stupor. Hey, I didn't know that he would do that. I couldn't even stop him if I wanted to. A fair point. Besides, it's not like Luffy knew you had someone with you. Usopp's mouth was basically on the floor as he stared at me. Sanjio not much better. Zoro was at least normal, respecting the fact that there was someone in there that did not want to be seen right now. He grabbed the other two by the arms, dragging them with him. Come on, let's go. We can wait for him outside. Honestly, we didn't have to bother with all this. I turned to Nami, ignoring Luffy as he stared at the ceiling on his place on the floor. What's with him? Nami sighed, lightly shaking Kaya out of her blushing state. He just wanted to get everyone together. Apparently he found a bar that Gold Roger went to, and his execution stand. Oh, now that's interesting. I'll meet you downstairs. I turned in, using the ice to block the doorway. The ice I made fell into snowflakes, showing me Aya once more. She tried to grab a handful of the ice, even pouting as she watched it disappear. So, you're a logia, huh? I smirked. I figured you'd be more shocked? Aya smirked in return. You think you were slick with that little glass of yours? I saw that ice from miles away. Most don't hide their devil fruit powers like you though. Ava stood, her body bare as she stretched. Damn good night. I take it you're leaving. I turned to the door. Most likely. I swear, that captain of mine doesn't know the meaning of the word relax. Would have preferred to stay a few more days. Ava smirked, shaking her ass as she searched for her dress. Oh, for little old me? I chuckled, shaking my head as I watched her get dressed. You're more than worth staying a few extra days for. You enjoy yourself? Ava blushed, her skin turning red around her neck. Oh, shut up you. You know I more than enjoyed myself. How does someone so young know what they're doing? I gave a smile and shrugged. She clicked her teeth at me. The devil's charm you got, that's for sure. I formed some between my fingers. I admit, I enjoyed the way her eyes lit up, seeing my devil fruit. She watched, transfixed as the ice traveled up my arm. In my hand a large solitary rose formed. I gave it to her, watching as she held it. She seemed more surprised at the cold than the flower. What's this for? To remember me if you'd like. That and keep your drink cold if you'd like that too. Ava chuckled a bit as she came to me, her dress in her arms. The kiss he gave me was deep and hungry, but knowing as well. You're dangerous, you know that right? How many hearts have you broken? I gave a smile back. I try to avoid breaking hearts, but there's been a few, more often with me if I'm being honest. Another hungry kiss and she put her dress on. She caressed my face, before her own went blank and dull. You owe me for the door. I smiled crookedly. I'm more than willing to pay. Just tell me the amount. Ava clapped her hand on my face, before walking away. Her hips swayed as she smirked back at me. I think we can come to an arrangement. I smirked even more. Yeah, last night was fucking great. Let's hope the rest of our stay here was just as smooth. Wait, fuck. I didn't just jinx us, did I?